My husband has gone to my sister, the worst betrayal. At one point in my life, I lost two of the most important people to me, my sister and my husband. Not to death or illness, but in a way that was somehow worse. They betrayed me, and for all intents and purposes, they no longer exist in my world. Sure, they're alive and well, but in my heart and mind, they're dead. Gone. I refuse to acknowledge their existence after what they did to me. The worst part, though, isn't even the betrayal itself. It's the reaction of my mother. Mum, bless her, admits my sister did something wrong, but refuses to understand why I've cut both her and my ex-husband out of my life. She keeps telling me, "But she's your sister, Sarah. You can't just pretend she doesn't exist." Oh, I can, and I will. If Liza had been a stranger, this wouldn't hurt nearly as much, but she wasn't. She was my sister, my best friend, and that's what makes it unbearable. Growing up, Liza and I were close. Sure, we had our fair share of squabbles, what sisters don't. But as we grew older, those petty fights faded, and we became more like friends than siblings. We're only a year apart, so we shared the same circle of friends, went to the same parties, and liked the same things. It was never competitive between us, never nasty. I trusted her implicitly. So when I met Mark and fell in love, I didn't hesitate to introduce him to Liza. It mattered to me that Mark got along with my family, especially Liza. He did, of course. He was charming, kind, and the kind of man who made friends easily. The three of us would hang out often. Movies, dinners, lazy Sundays spent chatting over coffee. At the time, it never even crossed my mind to worry about Lisa and Mark becoming too close. I trusted both of them completely. Lisa was even dating someone at the time, David, a good guy, and I thought they'd get married eventually. But when they broke up, Liza started spending more time with Mark and me, sometimes showing up at our place unannounced. It didn't bother me. She was my sister after all. I came home more than once to find Liza and Mark chatting in the kitchen over tea. I didn't think anything of it. Mark was always polite, and Liza had been visiting more to distract herself from her breakup. If anything, I was glad they got along so well. That was until I came home early from work one afternoon. I found them in my living room, on the couch, wrapped in each other's arms. It was like a scene from one of those trashy soap operas I used to hate watch with Liza. Only this time, I was living it. I didn't even have to ask what was going on. Their guilty faces said it all. Later, when the initial shock had worn off, the truth came out. They had been seeing each other for over a year. Behind my back, laughing with me, making plans with me, all the while hiding this affair. I was devastated. How could the two people I trusted most, my husband and my sister, do this to me? The divorce came swiftly after that, and I packed my things and moved into a small apartment across town. I couldn't go back to my parents' house. Liza was always there, and just the thought of seeing her face made me sick. I needed space, distance, anything that would help me breathe without the pain suffocating me. But the worst part? There was no one I could turn to. If Mark had cheated with someone else, I would have gone straight to Liza for comfort. If Liza had been betrayed, I would have turned to Mark. But there was no one left. The people I would have leaned on were the ones who caused my pain. I cut them both out of my life completely. I blocked their numbers, unfollowed them on social media, and refused to hear updates about them. For me, they were gone. But my mother, she had other ideas. Mum had always been the peacemaker of the family, the one who smoothed over every argument with a soft word and a warm meal. She tried to do the same here, but this time it wasn't going to work. "Sarah, I know Liza was wrong," she'd say, her voice full of sympathy but also frustration. "But you can't just ignore your sister forever. She's family." Family. That word had lost all meaning to me after what happened. "She's not my family anymore," I'd reply coldly. "She's nothing to me." Mum wouldn't let it go, though. She kept pushing. "You didn't even wish her a happy birthday," she said once, her tone sharp. "That's indecent." Indecent? I almost laughed. What was truly indecent was my sister sleeping with my husband for a year behind my back, and yet somehow I was the one being painted as cold, as unforgiving, as difficult. "Mum, you can't force me to forgive her," I snapped one night after she brought it up yet again. She betrayed me. She smiled in my face while she was stabbing me in the back. I can't forget that. But my mother, ever the optimist, wouldn't back down. "Sarah, it was love. You can't help who you fall for. I'm sure Liza never meant to hurt you." Love. As if that was an excuse. As if their love somehow justified the lies and the deceit. If it was love, then why didn't they just tell me? Why sneak around? Why betray me like that? I asked, my voice shaking with emotion. My mother didn't have an answer for that. She just sighed, patted my hand, and said, "One day you'll understand." 6 months had passed since the divorce, and I was finally starting to feel like myself again. I was still angry, still hurt, but I had thrown myself into work and was making new friends, slowly but surely. My apartment was starting to feel like home, and I even managed to laugh every once in a while. Life was moving on. And then, one quiet Sunday afternoon, there was a knock at my door. I opened it, expecting my neighbour or maybe a delivery. Instead, there stood Mark, and behind him, Lisa. My heart dropped into my stomach. The last people I wanted to see were standing on my doorstep, looking nervous and uncomfortable. For a second, I considered slamming the door in their faces. But instead I stepped back, letting them in. I wasn't sure why. Maybe I was tired of avoiding them. Maybe I wanted closure. Or maybe I just wanted to hear what pathetic excuse they'd come up with. They sat on my couch, looking smaller than I remembered. I stayed standing, arms crossed, staring at them with all the contempt I could muster. "We just wanted to talk," Mark said, his voice weak. "About what?" I replied, my tone icy. "What's left to talk about?" Liza spoke up next, her voice trembling. "We know we hurt you, Sarah. We never wanted to, but—" "Stop," I cut her off. "You didn't just hurt me, Liza. You destroyed me. Both of you." Mark ran a hand through his hair, clearly uncomfortable. "We didn't plan for this to happen," he mumbled. "It just did." I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of that. "Oh, right. You tripped and fell into bed together, I'm sure." Liza's eyes filled with tears. "Sarah, please. We're sorry, I'm sorry. We love each other, and we didn't know how to handle it." I felt sick. "Love," I spat. "Is that what this was about? Your love was more important than my marriage? Than my relationship with my sister?" Mark sighed. "We didn't come here to argue. We just wanted to tell you the truth." "The truth?" I said, my voice rising. "The truth is you both lied to me for a year. You had your chance to tell me the truth, and you didn't. So, forgive me if I don't care about your excuses." They were silent for a moment, and then Liza said something that nearly knocked the wind out of me. "We're getting married." I felt the world tilt beneath me. I had known, of course, that they were together now, but hearing those words, "we're getting married," was like a punch to the gut. My mind raced, but all I could think was, they want me to be happy for them. They actually think I'll accept this. "I don't care," I said finally, my voice low. "I don't care what you do. Get married, move to another country. Do whatever you want, just stay out of my life." Liza wiped her tears, nodding. "I understand if you can't forgive us, Sarah. I'm so sorry, and I'll always love you." I shook my head. "You don't get to say that anymore." With that, I opened the door and waited for them to leave. And this time, I didn't feel guilty slamming it behind them. The story about how the roommate brought to live with a man and not want to renegotiate shares in the payment of the communal